And what I want to talk to you about today is beginning with the end in mind. So many people set out on their pickup journey and their life improvement journey without a clear vision of where they want to be. And so what they end up doing is kind of going back and forth, meandering around sort of in the general vague direction of their goal, but not really knowing where they're going. And I think that's a huge, huge problem, and I'm going to tell you why. In order to relate this to you, I want to give you an experience that I had recently. I was at a business seminar with Papa and our head of marketing. And basically, the guy put this metric on the board, which I thought was really interesting. He said, basically, when you're looking at hiring employees for a business, he would evaluate them on two metrics. One is how productive are they, which is pretty obvious. You don't want an employee that doesn't do anything. But the other metric is how closely aligned are the employee's actions with the vision of the company, which I thought was really interesting. And he made a good point, which is that the worst employee you can make is not the non-productive employee, but it's actually the super productive employee who's doing things that are not in alignment with your vision, right? Because that person is proactively fucking things up, right? And that's what you don't want. And I feel like a lot of people, when they go out and they do game, they go out and they learn, they actually go out with the best of intentions, they go out trying to become better, but they actually end up proactively fucking things up because they don't have a direction, because they don't have an outcome, okay? My father used to say this to me, you know that old phrase, practice makes perfect? Well, what he used to say to me is like, practice doesn't make perfect, practice makes permanent. Because the fact of the matter is, whatever you practice, you get habits, right? And so if you end up practicing half-assed, you end up practicing the wrong things, what you actually do is you ingrain these really bad habits. And it's actually funny, a lot of times on boot camp, the guys who come in new to me without any pickup experience, without ever having been in the field, are sometimes the easiest ones to teach for two reasons. Number one, the obvious reason, which is they don't have an ego. They don't have this massive protectionist idea of all the work they've put in where they want to be consistent to it and make it mean something, make it valuable. But the other thing is they just haven't developed the bad habits, right? And so you'll see with guys that go out, you'll see a lot of guys, they've learned to do the approach, but they've just done the same lame approach over and over again, which is they go in, and then as soon as they get a negative emotion, they leave, right? And so they're actually training themselves to be chodes. They're training themselves to be socially awkward chodes that can't deal with a negative emotion. They can't deal with any kind of social pressure. So they're actually learning all the wrong habits rather than the right habits, okay? So what I want to encourage you to do is a few things. Number one, take a minute and think about what it is you actually want out of the game, okay? Be honest with yourself. Don't tell me what it is you think you should want. Don't tell me what it is you think I would want you to want. Don't tell me what it is your best friend wants. What is it you actually want? And again, be honest with yourself. You're gonna get what you want. Your actions are going to subconsciously be in alignment with what you've decided you want, especially if you've actually decided it, right? If it's a vague sort of nebulous idea in your mind, maybe not. But if you've actually made a decision, especially if you write it down, commit to it, you're probably gonna get there. Most people who actually write down their goals, most people who actually make goals, if they look back later, even if they forget they ever made them, they end up achieving their goals or something very close to them, all right? So I want you to take a minute and have a very definite idea of what it is that you want. Now, don't do that right now because you'll interrupt my video, but literally as soon as this video is over, I want you to do that. I want you to sit down and think about what you really want in-game. What are your goals? Do you want just the hottest girls? Do you want to get laid a lot? Do you want to develop a massive social circle? Do you want to develop skills with girls and guys both? And then make your practice in alignment with what you actually want, okay? If your goal is to get the hottest girls, then don't fucking sit around talking to little fatties and staying in the warm end of the pool and not going after the hottest girls. If your goal is to get laid a lot, don't sit in with some lukewarm set and just stay there the whole night instead of bouncing and reopening something else, okay? If your goal is to build a social circle, then actually develop contacts, actually follow up with your numbers, actually go out to parties, try and find events, etc. Take proactive steps toward your actual goal rather than just random activity. Activity for its own sake is just a waste of energy. The other way this comes in, this idea of beginning with the end in mind, is let's look at an individual night. So first we've looked at kind of the gross perspective, how you want to orchestrate your life, what you want out of life, etc. Let's talk about the individual night, okay? So many guys go out and they don't do the necessary things ahead of time to succeed. How many times have you gone out and not brought a condom with you, right? Unless you like going raw, in which case God bless you, I hope that, fingers crossed you never get unlucky. But how often do you go out and you don't bring a condom with you? How often do you go out and you don't have a clear plan for after the club how you're gonna get them home? You don't know maybe you're traveling or whatever, or you're just going to an unfamiliar place. You don't know the next step from the club. You don't have alcohol at your place. You don't have things set up. You haven't arranged it with your roommates, right? Big one is guys, they live with their parents. They never have the talk with their parents about what happens if I bring a girl home, so then they get afraid and they never bring a girl home, right? Think about your logistics, plan it ahead. Have a clear game plan for how you're gonna get from A to B to C to D, and the game plan should end with sex, or end with a relationship, or end with whatever your end goal is. You should literally have a plan the entire way. Now, don't be so rigid on that plan that you can never change it, that you're fucking inflexible and you're like Mr. Type A stick up his ass motherfucker, but have a plan. Right? Not having a plan, what is that? Failing to plan is planning to fail. Cliche as it sounds, it's good fucking advice. All right? Have a plan, know where you're going, know your outcome ahead of time, and give yourself a chance to succeed. Last point, do not go through the motions in field. I've met so many guys who they go out and they do tons and tons of approaches. They become approach machines, which is great as a newbie. Everybody who's a newbie should start out by being approach machine. Start out by just doing approaches, talking to everyone, just hitting it up as hard as you possibly can. However, after a certain point, you know how to do the first 30 seconds, you know how to do an approach. At that point, that's not productive for you anymore, just approaching. What you need to do then is start trying something new every night you go out, right? Start trying to get physical when you go out. Start trying to move the girl around the bar as much as you can. Start constantly seeding the pole as early as possible. Give yourself a mission and go out and do it. Again, your mission should be in alignment with your global goal, which we talked about a second ago. But regardless, give yourself a mission. Make sure it's something new every time, all right? Your brain is a very efficient mechanism for learning. Okay? It takes this random chaos of the world that you're bombarding it with, and it turns it into coherent ideas for a model for the world, a model for what works. But in order to do that, it needs new information. If you keep feeding it the same information over and over and over again, it can't have new insights, it can't learn new things, it can't grow, it can't progress. You have to give it new information. So even if it was random new information, that would be positive, but better yet, new information with the end in mind. The point being though, when you go out, do not go out and go through the motions. If you do that, number one, you're not learning anything. Number two, you're giving yourself the habit of going through the motions. You're giving yourself the habit of being lackadaisical and set, the habit of not pushing it. And the more you do that, it will actually make it harder to do the right thing later. You become that guy that I get on boot camp where I have to spend the first night unteaching you things, like getting you over all the obstacles you've taught yourself. Okay? So don't do that. Don't be a guy who teaches yourself obstacles. Don't be a guy that teaches yourself laziness or complacency or going through the motions, all right? 1 hour of game doing it right is better than 6 hours of going through the motion, all right? Make your practice time count, push it hard, begin with the end in mind, and make it an experience that's gonna get you where you really wanna go in the long run, all right? I think I've beaten this topic to death, so I'm gonna sign off. But go out, go hard, and go smart. Till next time.